Hi, welcome back to Ornithology Week, where we're learning all about birds. Today we're going to be talking about adaptations. Adaptations are tools that birds have developed over time to help them find food, live together, fly, cope with weather, and other elements of their habitats. So adaptations depend a lot on what an animal does in their daily lives. Birds that live in the water might develop a waterproof coat, such as this. If rain was to fall on my raincoat right now, it would bead and roll right off, keeping me dry. So birds who spend a lot of time in the water, like ducks, will deposit a waxy, oily coating on their feathers to keep them dry.
This is an example of what happens when water gets on feathers of birds with oily coating.
A lot of birds have two different types of feathers. The outside feathers that are the waterproof coat, and the inside feathers, or their down, which keeps them nice and warm. If you were to put on a nice warm winter coat, the inside soft layer that keeps you warm is very similar to birds' down underneath their harsh outside feathers.
In this image, you see the outer feathers on the bottom and the soft down feathers that keep them warm on the top.
Another thing feathers do for birds is camouflage. The coloring of a bird's feathers usually have to do with where they live. For example, my shirt is green, so I would probably best hide in a place that's green, like the grass or the trees.
You find the owl in this picture. See how their colors line up just perfectly with the trees that they live in. This bird has done a great job of matching their surroundings. Their color matches the color around them. This is a great example of adapting to weather. And it's not just birds themselves that camouflage. Sometimes they also camouflage their eggs. See how these eggs blend in just perfectly to the gravel around them? This is to keep them safe from predators.
Based on what you're wearing, where would you best blend in? Another adaptation that birds have developed is their beak or bill. These are usually dependent on what the bird eats and where they like to eat it. For example, a hummingbird. A hummingbird has a long, skinny beak that easily fits into flowers to collect nectar. A good example of this is a straw. The straw is hollow for them to get out the nectar and really long to help them fit into flowers. If you were to get a glass of water and put the straw in it and drink it, this is very similar to how hummingbirds collect nectar from flowers.
Here's an example of a hummingbird using its long beak to collect nectar from flowers.
Another feature that birds that spend a lot of time in the water usually have is webbed toes. Webbed toes are when there's skin connecting all of the fingers or toes on the bird's feet. If you want to try and demonstrate this, you can take a sock, put it on your hand, and spread your fingers out and see how now they're all connected. This is what helps them push the water back and swim and paddle faster.
You see the webbing on this duck's toes? Have you ever seen the webbing on a duck's toes before?
Lastly, one of the best known adaptations is wings. Wings are what birds have developed to help them get around. Flying is not a skill that humans have. If you were to move your arms like this, you're not really catching any wind. But if you were to take a blanket, go like this, you still won't be able to fly, but you can at least feel what it feels like to have the wind push back.
This image represents all types of bird wings. As you can see, there's a huge variation among birds, but they all work perfectly to adapt to their surroundings.
Some birds are considered an invasive species. An invasive species is an animal not native to the area that usually causes environmental or economical harm.
This is an example of an invasive species in North America. The European or common starling often competes for nest space and damages agriculture in the area by overeating. The barred owl is also an example of an invasive species. They compete with the native spotted owls for their nesting spots and hunting grounds. The Eurasian collared dove is an invasive species that is aggressive, displaces the North American dove, and often can spread diseases that can affect other doves. The mute swan can displace other animals and can harm native birds. It is adapted for longevity and can live longer than most birds in the area.
We learned a lot about adaptations, or tools that birds have developed over time to help them survive. These things help them find their food, help them live together, help them fly, and help them cope with weather and other elements of their habitats.